The Ginetta GT Academy drivers are pouring out onto the grid ahead of their second race of the weekend here at Brands Hatch, penultimate race of the season, and championships very much on the line. Both classes could well be won by the end of this race. We've got Julian Wantling on the cusp of winning in the GTA class. The rookie class drivers championship may well go to Mike Taylor by the end of the race if, and it's a big if, they can keep their noses clean. If neither of them have any dramas in this race, they should be able to do enough for the championship. But of course, the likes of Marc Elman in the GTA class, Harry Gamble in the rookie class, they'll be keen to try and engineer a little bit of drama maybe here and put themselves in a position where they can at least take the fight to the final race of the season. And, well, GT Academy Championship racing, not usually short on drama. You get to finals weekend and the nerves start to take hold. We've already had some issues yesterday. Marc Elman getting sort of taken out of the race, really, with a collision up at Druids with Peter Thompson. And that also brought about an early finish to the race, unfortunately. The recovery of those cars took a little bit longer than anticipated, so we only got half a race in yesterday, hoping for the full 20 minutes this time around. I can confirm, though, that it was... well, by the looks of it, maybe half points that were given yesterday, actually, which I did think might be the case because they hadn't got to 2/3 or 3/4 race distance, which is often the bare minimum necessary for full points to be allocated. So that meant slightly less damage was done in the championship by those who came out on top. Mike Taylor then and Harry Gamble start on the front row for race 2. James Nicholas and Luke Shaw will share the second row of the grid. And on row 3, Paul Thomas and Thomas Balfe. Fourth row then is shared by Julian Wantling, the GTA Class Championship leader, and Mike West, whilst the top 10 then is completed by Emma Tomlinson and Marc Elman. Marc really needs to beat Julian Wantling in this race to have any chance of taking the championship. Lucy Hodgson and Peter Thompson, who was in the wars yesterday, start together on row 6. Row 7 for Charlotte Lowe and Robin Grimwood, pair of guest drivers, so they're invisible as far as points are concerned, as is Oliver Fordham, with Gilbert Verdi and alongside him on row number 8. The ninth row is where you find Jamie Cordell. Now, Jamie Cordell starting from the back because of a disqualification from qualifying yesterday. So he started yesterday's race from the back of the grid, eventually got through to 8th position, but of course he only had about 2 racing laps to do that. So if we get the full 20 minutes in this time around, Jamie Cordell could really be one to watch. He's quick, we know he's quick. Jamie has had a couple of good runs this season, 3 podium finishes, all of them 3rd places, podiums within class that is. But whether or not he's going to be able to achieve that again today will very much depend, I think, on the start and how much progress he can make early doors. So it'll be a rolling start again with Mike Taylor and Harry Gamble at the front of the field. So coming into this race, Mike Taylor is, after dropped scores, 22 points ahead. But remember, they dropped their entire lowest weekends rather than just the lowest scoring races. The 2 lowest scoring weekends worth of points will be dropped. So we won't actually know until the end of race number 3 what the championship situation is going to be. But certainly a good result in this one for Mike Taylor will very much help his chances of beating Harry Gamble to the championship. A couple of onboard cameras for us to enjoy. On board here with Julian Wantling, the GTA class championship leader by 51 points coming into this race. What will the points look like, though, in 20 minutes' time? Well, let's find out. The penultimate round of the Ginetta GT Academy Championship gets underway now, and James Nicholas bolts immediately to the inside line. Mike Taylor, having none of that, closes the door and now tries to fend off Harry Gamble as well, going into Paddock Hill Bend. Harry, though, will try and carry the momentum on the outside line. That is the outside again into Druids, but he does have his nose ahead. Who's later on the brakes? It's Taylor on the inside, and Taylor will hold on to the lead heading around the second corner. Looking behind, it's been a good start for Marc Elman, by the way. Elman is ahead of Julian Wantling. That could prove significant if he stays there, and there's a car going quite slowly down the hill. Peter Thompson, maybe? Yes, it's the number 6 of Peter Thompson, who, the corner at which he ended up retiring yesterday, had a bit of a bobble on the first lap as well this time, but now seems to have picked up the speed again. In fact, he goes up the inside of Charlotte Lowe and regains one of those lost positions going into Surtees. Taylor then leads them onto the Grand Prix circuit for the first time. Gamble second, and James Nicholas looking racy in 3rd. Luke Shaw 4th position. You can see on the left again the classes, the white backgrounds of the rookies, the black backgrounds, easy for me to say, are the GT Academy class drivers, and the red backgrounded numbers will be the guest drivers, invisible for points, but still very much taking part in the race and wanting to get some good results. Now through Dingle then, sun's starting to shine quite brightly actually over on the Indy part of the circuit. It's not really breaking through the clouds on the Grand Prix loop just yet, but definitely conditions starting to get a little bit warmer now as we move into the mid part of the day. Marc Elman there ahead of Emma Tomlinson. So Marc Elman is running second in the rookie class. Mike West is leading the class, but he's the next car ahead. So Elman will definitely want to try and grab a win if he can and hope that Wantling ends up off the podium, because if that's the case, then maybe, just maybe, the championship could go down to the wire. Across the line we go then. It is Taylor the leader. It's Gamble second, third Nicholas, fourth Shaw, then a gap back to Paul Thomas in fifth position. There is Elman. So Elman's on the tail of Mike West, look, and Mike a little bit wide in the E3 Sport car at Paddock Hill Bend. So Marc Elman, nothing to lose really, knows that he just needs to try and win the race and hope for the best. And as they turn through Druids, Elman looks maybe the racier of the two. Has to be careful though, because Emma Tomlinson's right there behind, and that was Julian Wantling slowing, wasn't it? Julian Wantling seemed to be slowing in the background. I think Julian's lost a place, yes, to Paul Thomas, that looks like. But was that a problem, or was he just moving out of the way of the the rookie class driver? Maybe that's the case. Maybe Julian's been told, look, you just need to finish the race, that'll be enough for you, and he just doesn't have any interest in battling anybody. Wait and see if that car continues to lose pace or not. Here comes Elman. There, look, is Thompson. Oh, Wantling really has dropped back from Thompson. Is this a drama? Is the car running okay, or is he just trying to get himself in some nice empty racetrack? Look, he's got a big gap behind him, back to Charlotte Lowe, that will be. And maybe he just doesn't want to be near anybody. You wouldn't blame him, would you? Let's listen on board then as he heads up through Sheen Curve. Everything sounds okay to my relatively untrained ear, admittedly, but he now seems to be picking up the speed a bit more. I think he's just driving a very cautious race, and that might be a clever way of winning this championship. It might not be the fun way of winning the championship, but he's not really interested in that. It's been a long, hard season with plenty of twists and turns. He doesn't want to provide another twist at this final round. He just wants a nice, safe, sensible run to the championship. Right, the leading three, they're perhaps about to give us some real entertainment, though, because they're all getting closer together. James Nicholas in third position, setting the fastest lap of the race so far on that lap. And the Palmer Sports Scholarship winner coming towards the conclusion now of his first ever season of car racing. And what a season it has been. James Nicholas, remember, won the very first race of the season at Alton Park. He then took a double race victory at Silverstone, won 2 races at Donington Park at the next round, despite being taken out in an accident on lap 1 in race 1. But then he hasn't won a race since. It was the mid part of the season, really, where Nicholas just a bit of inconsistency started to creep into his racing, and yeah, just didn't really score the same amount of points as Mike Taylor through the mid part of the year, which meant that he arrived here at Donington Park as an outside bet in the championship, but after the race yesterday, is now realistically out of the fight. He's 41 points back from Taylor. He is only 19 back from Harry Gamble, though, so second place could still be on the cards for Nicholas. But, of course, he's behind Gamble at the moment, so needs to try and find a way past him if that is going to become a reality. Down through Stirling's. Short straight then downhill into Clearway. It's quite a steep downhill approach, as you can see. They blast underneath the bridge and head for Clearway. It's a big bump as well as you turn in there, as you transition from the Grand Prix circuit back onto the Indy circuit. There's a big bump in the road, and that could unsettle the car quite easily on the way into the corner. Up towards Paddock Hill Bend we go then. 3 laps complete. The lead gap goes out this time because Mike Taylor has set the fastest lap of the race. And here, look, Thomas Balfe is up the inside of Paul Thomas and moving into 5th position. So Thomas Balfe gains a position, carries a lot of speed into Paddock Hill Bend, though, gets it all out of shape, but manages to hang on to the car and, crucially, hang on to that newly acquired 5th position. And that was a good bit of driving that from Thomas Balfe. It wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. That has now brought Mike West onto their tail. Mike, incidentally, has dropped Marc Elman now to the tune of 1.7 seconds. So the lead battle in the GTA class has sort of fizzled out for now. There you can see Elman in the background. If anything, starting to come under pressure now from Emma Tomlinson for his second position in class. Thomas Balfe having broken through into 5th position, not yet scooting off up the road, is he? If anything, Paul Thomas is sort of coming back at him now down the hill. And they're going to be a move made into Hawthorne. Maybe you don't really do a lot of braking into this corner. It's all about carrying the speed on the way in, which they do. Thomas maybe a bit wide of the apex there. And Thomas Balfe will now breathe a little sigh of relief as they turn through Westfield And continue on down the hill. There's the GTA class leader, Mike West. Now, what involvement will he have in this battle? If he thinks he's quicker than Paul Thomas, he's every right to try and find a way through. Mike West hasn't yet won a race, actually, in his class this year. He's had 6 third-place finishes in the GTA class, never finished any better than 3rd, though. So he now sees a real opportunity to try and get that first win of the year. Good time to do it as well at the end of the season, carry some momentum into next year. Black and white warning flag for the race leader, incidentally, for, guess what, exceeding track limits. So, and the gap came down that time quite significantly by about 0.6 of a second, actually. Hearing he had a lock-up into this corner Druids, and look, he's outbraked himself again. So, Mike Taylor, I wonder if he's flat-spotted a tyre, or is at least concerned that he's flat-spotted a tyre, because he was very tentative under braking that time. So Harry Gamble closes in. And Mike Taylor now has to be very, very careful for the remaining 13 minutes of this race that he doesn't exceed track limits again, because one more infringement and 5 seconds will be added to his race time. That quite clearly would be enough to lose him the lead, probably even 2nd place as well. And that's not good news for his championship hopes. There is a move being made a bit further back. That was actually the last 2 cars in the race. Oliver Fordham slipping up the inside of Lucy Hodgson's car at Druids and going through. And then just ahead of them, Charlotte Lowe and Robin Grimwood doing battle. Robin Grimwood's E3 Sport car, one of the more distinctive liveries on the grid. And challenging Charlotte Lowe, who's moved up a few positions from where she started. So out of Surtees. Down the hill they go, and Grimwood not quite close enough, I don't think, to find a way through. This is for the lead, if you like, of the guest class. So good to see 2 of them engaging in a battle here. Robin Grimwood, who we've seen racing Ginettas in the past, I want to say in the G40 Cup, possibly, back when that was a thing. And back racing with us again now in the GT Academy. Right, leaders across the line. Mike Taylor's gap was half a second. It's now half a second. It went out fractionally, but only by a couple of hundredths of a second. But yeah, he has at least now put Harry Gamble at arm's length. With a purple final sector too there for Mike Taylor, fastest of anybody else. Drifting the car through Druids, getting some really nice rotation. The front of Mike Taylor's car working very well. Then they plunge down into Graham Hill Bend. Very even lap times though, really. It was a 38.574 for Taylor, a 38.597 for Gamble, and a 38.902 for James Nicholas. He was the slower of the 3. Oh, Gamble, a big slide there through Surtees. There you can see the gap. It went up by 0.6, then down by 0.6, and then sort of stabilised last time around. But Harry Gamble, who himself has picked up 2 race wins this year. James Nicholas now being warned about track limits too. So all of these well, 2 of the 3 leaders anyway, getting maybe themselves in a bit of trouble. He ran wide again there, out of Hawthorne, I think. Got 2 wheels onto the grass. And as a result, just drops a length or so further away from Harry Gamble. So it's pretty static at the front, isn't it, for now? Best of the battling really is going on further back. Mike West still trying to do something about Paul Thomas. And actually, as he is battling with Thomas, he's been caught again by Marc Elman. That gap was 1.7 seconds at one point. It was 1.3 seconds at the end of the previous lap, and it was a personal best lap for Elman. So Marc Elman not yet giving up hope of a GTA class win. That would be his 8th of the year if he could do it. He's got more wins than anybody else in that class now. That's the line we go then. What were the gaps this time? Well, fastest lap of the race for Mike Taylor tells you the gap went out slightly, but all 3 of them did personal bests. It was a good lap that from Taylor though, 0.3 quicker, 8.5 his margin. James Nicholas now perhaps starting to apply a bit more pressure to Harry Gamble than Gamble is able to apply to the race leader. There is Marc Elman, and he was quicker again that time than Mike West, quite significantly, 0.6 quicker. So yeah, Marc Elman really now starting to come back at Mike West for the class lead. He's bringing Emma Tomlinson with him, and so it could become a 3-way fight this. Yeah, 0.6 on the previous lap, a couple of tenths the 2 laps before. Whether that was a mistake for West, I'm not so sure. Didn't have any particularly slow sectors as far as I could see. It was just a gradual gain over the lap by Elman. Marc, sorry, as I said, has picked up those 7 race wins. the most recent of those wins, coming last time out at Donington Park. In fact, he won the first 2 races at Donington, then tangled with Thomas Balfe in race 3. Now, I don't think we had time to cover that properly at the time, but there was a collision between Thomas Balfe and another driver at the Melbourne hairpin, and then when Thomas got to the final corner at Goddard's, the steering had broken. He couldn't get the car through the corner, and unfortunately, as he shot straight on, Marc Elman was to his right and got tapped into the spin. So Marc, I don't think, was very happy with that, but once the situation was explained, I'm sure he then understood that it wasn't intentional from Thomas Balfe. But anyway, that lost him a whole heap of points because Julian Wantling was able to pick up the pieces and win the race. So that really was the race where Marc Elman took a big step back in the championship, then got caught up in a collision again in yesterday's race. Oh, someone into the pit lane there. Who was that? Was that Paul Thomas? I think that might have been Paul Thomas. And then, no, it was Shaw. It was Luke Shaw in. So Luke Shaw from 4th position suddenly dives for the pit lane. I wonder why. He pulls up in front of his team and they go to work. Where? I'm looking at this out of the window. There we see it on the screen now. Well, they're looking around the car. I don't think they can see anything obviously wrong. Maybe he was feeling something on the right front corner, but the team seem to think the tyre is fine. And the bonnet, I can tell you, is now coming off the car. So that's a shame. From 4th position, Luke Shaw out of the race. That was Mike West having a big slide coming out of Graham Hill Bend. And yep, there is the worst hand gesture, well, one of the worst hand gestures you can receive as a racing driver. The sign to turn the engine off. Your race is done, unfortunately, Luke Shaw. So whilst that was going on, there was a very close moment between Mike West and Paul Thomas coming out of the final corner, where Paul seemed to suddenly slow down a little bit. Mike West did a good job to avoid him. Marc Elman's challenge just sort of stagnating a little bit now. He's not taking any more time out of West and hasn't really got himself close enough to challenge for this position just yet. Up through Westfield, down into Dingle-Dell. Julian Wantling, by the way, still going all the way down in 11th position, but that's still 4th in class. There are only 4 drivers in this race in the GTA class, so as long as Wantling finishes, he will score 4th place points, and we believe that might just be enough to seal the deal with a race to spare, but we'll have to get that clarified later on. Down into Clearways corner we go. Marc Elman, again, not quite close enough to challenge for now. The lead gap, by the way, 1.5 seconds now. Mike Taylor starting to establish himself out in front. Harry Gamble 6/10 clear of James Nicholas. That battle could still come to life in the closing stages. This little group now maybe starting to get a bit closer together again. Yes, Paul Thomas at the front of the group did do a personal best lap. It was 3/10 quicker than Mike West, but Mike was 4/10 slower than Marc Elman. So again, Marc Elman now starting to come back at West. There's been a little bit of inconsistency in the lap times between the two of them, but it does seem that when he's quicker, he is quite a bit quicker, Marc Elman. Breaks quite early there into Surtees. Up the hill they go. And Thomas Balfe, you can see off in the distance now, of course, into 4th position with the demise of Luke Shaw. Down into the countryside, that shot really showing how much countryside there is on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Full coverage of trees, and that's why this bit of the circuit is a little bit more challenging on a sketchy mixed conditions day. At the moment it is dry. There are some dark clouds overhead, but I don't think it's looking all that likely to rain, he says, touch wood. But when it does rain, the back part of the circuit is treacherous. Always takes a bit longer to dry. It's often a bit cooler than the Indy circuit as well, just because it's less exposed. Now, this for second place. James Nicholas all of a sudden is right on the tail of Harry Gamble. Only a 1/4 of a second between them at the line. And James Nicholas carrying good speed here through Paddock Hill Bend. Now, Harry Gamble does not want to lose this second position. Losing second place in the race will perhaps mean there's a chance of him losing second place in the championship to James Nicholas by the end of the day. He's outbraked himself a little bit there, Gamble. James Nicholas gets the better exit from Druids, but that will be the outside line into Graham Hill Bend. He tries to go right round the outside. That is an outrageous move. Surely he's not going to pull that off. I think he did, yes, and stay within track limits as well. James Nicholas sails around the outside of Harry Gamble, who I don't think expected that. I think he was braking early to cover off the opportunity for a switchback manoeuvre, and well, now he's making a few mistakes. Look, drifts out wide over the grass coming out of Surtees, but I think Gamble was expecting James Nicholas to go for the switchback, and James just sent it round the outside and moves into second place. That was a terrific bit of driving. So I don't think that was Harry Gamble letting him go either, because the body language of Gamble's car through the very next corner at Surtees said that he was definitely pushing. So I do think that was just a great bit of racecraft from James Nicholas. So James into second. Here's the replay look. So Gamble drifts wide out of Druids. The rear of his car doesn't look that happy, does it? But Nicholas isn't even alongside when they hit the brakes, and then just drives clean around the outside of him, and crucially stayed within track limits on the exit. I was convinced he was going to run wide over the exit curb, but I don't think he did. So yeah, really good stuff that from James Nicholas. Not the kind of driving you'd expect from a driver who is only at the end of his debut season of racing. This, though, perhaps is. He's had a big moment through Sheen Curve. I thought that gap had come back down whilst we were watching the initial replay of a very good bit of driving. He then goes on the grass. In fairness, so did Harry Gamble. So both of them go bouncing down the grass coming out of Sheen Curve. Brilliant coverage from the super slow-mo camera. It's almost like they meant to do that. I do suspect that Harry Gamble was maybe following James Nicholas's reference points there. That's why they both ended up going off. But anyway, he's back on his tail now as they come out of Druid, down toward the scene of the crime, where he was absolutely mugged by Nicholas a lap ago. And given the opportunity, he would love to exact his revenge, I'm sure. He won't want that to be the big talking point from his race. Is there a gap up the inside into Surtees? Maybe, but he's a bit too far back. And James Nicholas just very calmly takes his line, sweeps across to the late apex, carries the speed up the hill, back down the other side towards Pilgrim's Drop. So James Nicholas then hanging on to second for now. Whilst all this is going on, by the way, Mike Taylor has just set another new fastest lap, improving upon his previous best, a 1:38.255 now the gap. Now the lap time, sorry to be, 3.8 seconds the gap. Meanwhile, in GTA land, Mike West still leading. Marc Elman can get to about 5 or 6 tenths back, and then just doesn't seem to be able to get any closer. And now Emma Tomlinson is starting to harass him as they head into Hawthorne and back down towards Westfield. There's Harry Gamble, meanwhile, on the tail of James Nicholas. Novice Cross still on the back of James's car for the remainder of this rookie season. A very impressive rookie season that it's been, with already 3 class wins. Actually, the same number, no, 1 more win than Harry Gamble's had in the class this season. But neither of them looking likely to win this race. Mike Taylor is 3.9 seconds up the road from them, another 10th quicker that time than Nicholas in second. There's a screeching of tyres as they hurl the cars through Paddock Hill Bend. Now, they're lapping in the 1:38. I think they've got time for 2 more laps here. So 2 more times around the circuit for James Nicholas to defend this second place as they head out of Graham Hill Bend. Already, Mike Taylor turning into Surtees corner as the race leader, very comfortable race leader. And for Mike Taylor, an 8th class win of the year seemingly is on the cards. Oh, Nicholas very wide out of Surtees there, grinding out the bottom of the car on the exit curb. Head now down into the right-hander at the bottom of Pilgrim's Drop with still a car's length or so between them. Behind them, I can tell you, Mike West still leading the GTA class. Marc Elman now over a second behind him. 5-second penalty, oh dear, for James Nicholas for exceeding track limits. So all of that hard work, that brilliant overtake that he made on Harry Gamble, and it's all going to be for nothing. He's going to end up in 3rd place anyway, unless Gamble picks up a penalty of his own. So James Nicholas then with a track limits infringement, and he may be second on the road, but on corrected times will drop back behind Harry Gamble. They are, though, 15 seconds, let's call that, ahead of Thomas Balfe. So I think 3rd place should be secure for James, but those extra points that he really needed to try and score if he could against Harry Gamble, he's not going to be scoring now. Charlotte Lowe there getting out of the way. Now Charlotte's going very slowly and has lost several positions from when we last saw her. She was 13th, she's now 15th, well in fact she was 12th last time we saw her, she's now 15th, so 3 places lost. And it goes a lap down to the leaders as they begin their final lap of the race. Mike Taylor serenely continuing on his way. Now, as I said, we can't say anything for certain until the end of race number 3, but according to Simon Pace from Ginetta, a clean, trouble-free run in race 2 for Mike Taylor was probably going to be enough to more or less seal the deal in the championship. Here's Marc Elman, and he has lost second place in the GTA class as well to Emma Tomlinson, although Emma is very wide out of Druids, and Marc Elman gets back alongside her. Wrong side of the road into Graham Hill Bend though, and he doesn't choose to go up the inside into Graham Hill Bend, so it will be Tomlinson up to second, and likewise this now I think will be enough for Julian Wantling to wrap up the GTA Class Championship. He was already 51 points ahead. He's only losing a couple of points now to Marc Elman. I don't think this will become a dropped weekend for him, so I think Julian Wantling will have one hand on the championship trophy at the end of this race as well, unless something dramatic happens to him on the last lap. He's running all the way down in 11th place, about 20 seconds nearly behind this group. Mike West, though, on course for a GTA class win, it would seem now, with Marc Elman's challenge fading. They head through Westfield for the final time. Mike Taylor is already at Clearways, though, and a checkered flag awaits now for Mike Taylor. And with one hand on the championship trophy, it is an 8th class win of the year. And Mike Taylor then crosses the line, takes the checkered flag. It's one win apiece this weekend between Mike and Harry Gamble, but that was a really dominant display in the end from Taylor. James Nicholas second on the road, but the 5-second track limits penalty drops him back behind Harry Gamble, as Harry Gamble, whose championship hopes may now be dwindling, at least has more or less secured second place in the points, I think, now. And then here comes Mike West to claim the win in the GTA class. Second place for Emma Tomlinson, third for Marc Elman. It'll be a long wait, but when Julian Wantling gets here, we might still see a little bit of a celebration. Here he is, car number 3, round the final corner, and we believe this might be enough now for him to be crowned provisionally the GTA class champion. He's coasting across the line. He is celebrating now. I think he will have done the maths before the race and, well, crawls across the line in the end, Julian Wantling. I would be intrigued to know whether or not he had an issue with that car, or whether he was just out for a Sunday drive. And he's got a fan club at the side of the track. That's really nice to see. Go Julian, say the Julian Wantling fan club, and they may well be celebrating a championship victory at the end of this race. We'll let Ginetta do all of the official points calculations, but that certainly won't have hurt his chances. That is for sure. So, good race that. Good battle between James Nicholas and Harry Gamble for second place. Mike Taylor disappeared up the road in the end. 3.8 seconds the eventual winning margin, but he had backed off a bit towards the end. And Mike Taylor, as I said, doing himself no harm at all there in the quest for the Rookie Class Championship. We'll pull in below the podium, and we'll celebrate with the team in a moment or two. James Nicholas will be frustrated, I'm sure, to end up third place, having made that brilliant move around the outside of Harry Gamble mid-race, but Gamble inheriting second after the track limits penalty for Nicholas. It's Mike Taylor then, the overall and rookie class winner. Harry Gamble second and James Nicholas third, with Thomas Balfe in fourth position. Paul Thomas fifth. Mike West wins the GTA class in sixth, ahead of Emma Tomlinson, who got past Marc Elman for second in the closing stages. Peter Thompson was ninth. Jamie Cordell 10th from the back of the grid, ironically finishing one place further back than he did yesterday, despite only having 2 laps to make all of that ground up in race 1. Julian Wantling is 11th. That is 4th in the GTA class, and we think enough to seal the championship, with Robin Grimwood the best of the guest drivers ahead of Oliver Fordham, Lucy Hodgson, Charlotte Lower lap down, and Luke Shaw in the end after a pit stop was a retirement. So, a entertaining penultimate round of the championship. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights. The second race of the weekend at Brands Hatch saw Mike Taylor start on the front row of the grid alongside race 1 winner Harry Gamble, who tried to challenge round the outside into Paddock Hill Bend. It didn't quite work though. He had his nose in front into Druitt, but later on the brakes was Taylor, and he managed to hang on to the lead. It was a much cleaner run through the first few corners this time. James Nicholas was going after Harry Gamble for second place in the race, using every bit of the road available to him in his quest to find a way through. Eventually made this really spectacular move round the outside at Graham Hill Bend, stayed within track limits, but did then exceed them a bit later on. Here at Sheen Curve, they both went off the road. There was then another track limits excursion later on for James Nicholas, and that led to a 5-second penalty. Mike Taylor, though, with all of that battling going on behind him, was able to serenely pull away into the distance to claim another race win, his 8th of the year, and we believe now has one hand on the Rookie Class Championship trophy.